Hey there, college sports fans. Well, if you don't like the transfer portal, then you really don't like what's going on with Clemson's linebacker signing in this class. Yes, signing. Luke Ferrelli is signed, sealed, maybe not delivered to Clemson, although the reports say that he's been on campus and in class. If you look around on social media, message boards, and beat reporters and what they're writing, there's a lot to discuss about this. And, then to cleanse the palate, we'll talk about the still undefeated in ACC play men's basketball team. I'm Bill Zimmerman. This is the Reign Supreme Always podcast, season 4.
I'm Daniel Shirley. There's a lot to unpack here with the football. There's a lot of good to unpack with the basketball. I think we can at least all agree on that. But Bill, it's just a weird situation with with this Luke Ferrelli thing. It's a weird situation with this football thing. It used to be if a young man was on campus or was in class or woman, either female sports as well, that you were good to go. You took a breath. Whew, okay, now you go. But that's not the case anymore, and that is a weird situation for these coaches to be in, because that was the whole thing about the one portal window that these coaches wanted, was to get their roster set after the 1st of January. And if that's not even the case anymore, well, then why do you even have a portal window?
Yeah.
Well, guys should, and females as well, just leave whenever you want, if that's what we're going to be. And then it is truly the Wild West that people have talked about was coming for a couple of years.
Yeah, and I keep going back. You don't hear a lot about this, but I keep going back to the case of Xavier Lucas signing with the Wisconsin, leaving within, was it a day? It was a very short amount of time. Ended up, well, unenrolling. He did not even use the transfer portal, and that's the key I'm getting at here. He unenrolled from Wisconsin. He enrolled at Miami. He played this year. There's still a lawsuit going on about whether or not Xavier Lucas should be at Miami, and Wisconsin, understandably wanting to recoup its financial investment in the cornerback. So, is that what we're looking at with Luke Ferrelli? Is everybody's saying, hey, is he back in the portal? Did he ever leave the portal? Portal technically can be a non-factor. And I think the portal, all it really does is to give guys a place to be listed so that opposing coaches can say, hey, there's a guy that we've looked at on tape. There's a guy who's impressed me in the past and we can bring him in. But it certainly isn't restrictive that if a guy doesn't declare for the portal, he's stuck where he is. And it was very interesting to see a couple of things. Caden Story and Champ Thompson apparently, reportedly, wanting to enter the portal, and in Story's case, he did, and then both decided to remain at Clemson. That's always an option. I suppose that's still an option for Luke Ferrelli, in which case he would be headed to Ole Miss, according to all reports. Ole Miss is a school that has tried to prevent its players from entering the portal after signing with the Rebels, which, tell me, I guess chutzpah is the word I should use.
Oof,
Hypocrisy could be the word that I use there. Good for me, but not for thee. Uh, Pete Golding, he of the checkered traffic infraction history, I suppose, and one of the few assistants that Nick Saban has ever said, "Hey, I don't think you need to be here anymore."
that's
Taking
right.
over for Lane Kiffin, who, not a lot of people really enjoy his morals and scruples, if you will. Uh, that checkered way of carrying themselves continues. And a lot of people think that Dabo Swinney very likely has the high moral ground. They say that he doesn't like to tamper. He's been reluctant to use the portal in the first place. And you've got to wonder how, if I'm frustrated, the fan part of my brain is frustrated about this, and a lot of fans and alumni are frustrated about this. Imagine being in Dabo Swinney's shoes or Tom Allen's shoes, having a guy that they thought was going to be a key to this defense next year, and suddenly they don't have him.
A couple of things here. If I'm Dabo and this is true and this is happening,
And if it
and
completes, which we don't
and
know yet.
and he ends up at Ole Miss, I am suing or getting my money back. However that works, I'm getting the money back that we've given him. He signed a contract, supposedly. I am calling out publicly Ole Miss and Pete Golding. I just am. I'm naming names at this point. And, you know, it's funny to see Ole Miss played the victim throughout the college football playoff. Oh, Lane is screwing us. Lane is doing this one. Oh my God. Look at Lane. Well, you know, now Pete Golding is doing Lane Kiffin's work and doing the same kind of thing.
Reportedly.
It is funny on one hand that you can try to fight somebody little while you're pulling somebody from another school who's already enrolled at that school.
Yeah.
So, hey, there's got to be some rules, Bill. I don't know what those rules are. I don't know how you stop this stuff. Is it the old bag man that everybody was doing it back in the day? But even then, once you got on campus, it stopped. So if you're enrolled in classes, you have to, if you're enrolled at Clemson, or if you're, let's say it's reverse, you're enrolled at Ole Miss, and Clemson comes and gets your guy, you should be ineligible to enroll at Ole Miss. And then that would make you ineligible to play in the next year. So you got to sit out a year. If you're enrolled at a school and you didn't enter, and all the stuff that the rules and now that all they are, or what rules? There are no rules.
Mm.
I mean, but if you do this, then you should have to sit out a year.
Yeah.
It goes back to the old rule of if you transfer, you got to sit out a year. That, it just can't be part of the equation. And again, if Clemson did this, I would call out Clemson the same way that we're calling out Ole Miss. This is not an Ole Miss versus Clemson thing. This is a college football thing.
Amen.
That, I mean, I've got Georgia fans texting me. I don't even know if I'm going to watch college football anymore. I don't know. Other fans from other schools, not about this, but just about all of it.
Right.
You're going to run the fans off if you keep this up. And then then there's no sport for these young men to make their money. I know that's like end of the world hyperbolic stuff, and it's not actually going to get to that point. But you're headed down that path of ruining college football.
Be sure to subscribe at youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. It's free. It's the best place to catch all our episodes, and it's the best place for you to comment with your reactions.
And the people who say I'm not going to watch college football anymore, I don't believe them.
Right.
Because I know on Saturday at noon in the fall, boom, my 5 TVs are going on college football. So, you've seen, as my friend Randy calls it, my Best Buy setup where I have screens and TVs everywhere. But
this is not a sponsored mention.
No, I'm a sicko about it.
Yeah.
I'm not the casual fan. And you're sicko about it. We are. And look, maybe that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But for the good of the sport, something has to happen where the NCAA or somebody has some teeth to enforce rules to keep this stuff from happening. And again, we're a Clemson podcast. We're Clemson graduates. That's why we're talking about it. But if this was, Nebraska and Texas Tech,
Wisconsin and Miami,
yeah, it's still not right.
Right.
And the Ole Miss thing, it makes you understand how Pete Golding was on Lane Kiffin's staff.
Ooh. Yeah.
I mean, where did he learn it from? And Nick Saban did tell him to go away. So it is funny for Ole Miss to play the victim, which they did for 3 weeks in the college football playoff. And they were this great story in this underdog gritty group. Well, it's just continuing the stuff that Lane Kiffin was doing when he was there. And to me, Pete Golding is the same guy as Lane Kiffin if he's going to be doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And again, this is all based in widespread reports. None of this is fully documented, but these are, again, putting on our editor hats, so to speak, copy editor and content editor hats. we're pulling from the more reliable stuff. We're not getting into the most, salacious stuff and things like that. Here's what I'll say. I think this is all temporary. I think that at some point there's going to be a solution to this. I think the Wild West is for those of you who are watching Pluribus, it's wading through the part of Panama that doesn't have a highway, and Clemson just fell up against the palm tree with the spines sticking out of it and got stuck. I do think that there's going to be getting across this situation in college football. I do think that um, probably a super league is the solution, but there has to be some kind of collective bargaining. And whether it pertains to only football or to all coaches, there's going to have to be all coaches, all sports. Well, yeah, all coaches too. There's going to be a significant realignment that takes place where the schools that have the money to play this way in building a roster are going to have to be in a separate stratosphere and all together and finally playing by the same set of rules. That's going to be difficult to pull off. I don't know that I've seen anything anywhere about a collective bargaining agreement really being an option anytime soon. And so it may take that new structure completely to be able to make that happen. The other thing I will again reiterate from Xavier Lucas, going to Miami without using the portal in an earlier time and this past season playing for Miami, the NCAA said in a statement about a year ago that yeah, there's nothing that they can do to stop a player from just unenrolling at one school, enrolling at another, and playing immediately. So what Lucas did, what it could be that Ferrelli chooses to do, is really not outside the lines of what the NCAA does. Now, the NCAA does have rules against tampering, and that to me, if that's what took place, if Golding or other Mississippi officials were reaching out to this guy who was not in the portal and who was enrolled at Clemson, then that to me is the biggest problem. Well, look,
And if
we'll
you've signed a contract now, you
yes,
have to pay back that contract or honor that contract.
exactly,
I don't think Lucas, this was before contracts, I think. I don't think he had signed a contract. If this young man has signed a contract, I'm sorry, that's real world stuff.
right,
The contract matters.
yeah,
And I know we want to still treat these college athletes like they're kids. You know, we use that word a lot.
right,
That world is gone.
right,
You know, you signed a contract, you either honor that contract or you pay to break it.
yeah.
And
And
you
I
got to
th
pay the money to break it. And I'm sure Ole Miss would pay it and, whatever. But if I'm Clemson, I fight this because I think you've got to make an example out of whatever's going on here.
Right. And I hope the fight is not to try to keep a guy who doesn't want to be in
You
Death
don't want him in your
Valley.
locker room,
You
right?
don't want him in the locker room. You don't want him saying, "Oh, my hamstring's sore," or "Hey, I can never remember that part of the playbook." You don't want someone who's not invested in being in Clemson. Get the money back.
Absolutely.
Let the guy move on. Maybe he still somehow becomes a pro. Maybe he collects on everything that is promised by Ole Miss. Maybe he doesn't. Wouldn't that be something? So we'll see how it all goes. We will keep track of it and come back at you when it's all done. But I'll tell you what is done, at least right now, is Clemson has beaten Miami in men's basketball to move to 6-0, I believe, in ACC competition. They still remain undefeated. Actually built a lead and maintained it at double digits for most of the late part of the game, second half, and really good to see. And I just, as the thumbnail wonders that I set up for this episode, that hopefully you clicked on and you're still with us, is this Brad Brownell's best team yet?
Well, I mean, he's had a team go to the Sweet 16. He's had a team go to the Elite Eight. He had that team last year go 18-2 and then fall on its face in the NCAA tournament. Let's wait and see about that. I think it's his most fun team to watch
Hmm,
for me. It really is, and I know the Sweet 16 team was fun to watch with all the with the shooting that they had on that team. The Elite Eight team was really fun, a
oh yeah.
fun team to watch. But I love this team. I love RJ Godfrey. Yeah, I've told you that. I'm a huge RJ Godfrey fan. I think they missed him immensely last year, even though they went 18-2 in the conference. They missed him in the tournament. They missed him in the ACC tournament. I love what Dylan Hunter brings to this team. The new faces. all bring something different, and you can see it. One night it's Nick Davidson, one night it's Justin Porter, one night it's Carter Welling, and we've seen that the last 3 or 4 games. So I love the defense of this team. I love the fight of this team. I think it was Qualkenbush tweeted out that there's 2 ACC teams that are shooting better than 50% from the floor. Miami and SMU, and Clemson shut both of them down.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. You got NC State on Tuesday. You got Georgia Tech on Saturday. But man, I tell you, I like the look of this team. I like the togetherness of this team. I wish Zach Foster was healthy because I love Zach Foster. I don't
Yeah.
think they've had a freshman like Zach Foster in a long, long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking Greg Buckner, maybe someone like that is since they've had a freshman who could contribute what he's contributing. But this team has got something special.
Connect with us on social media. That's at Clemson Kickoff. Whether you're on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, or Facebook, you'll find us there.
And Bill, maybe we talked about this or we were texting back and forth about it. They are 24-2 in their last 26 ACC games.
Nutty.
Did you ever think you would live to see something like that? And I know the ACC isn't nearly what it was of what we grew up on with the ACC. But would you have ever thought you would see a Clemson team be 24-2 in 26 ACC games? I never would have.
Yeah.
And I know I'm been critical of Brad Brownell. I think most of it has been fair, but you've got to acknowledge what they've done the last 3 or 4 years. And Elite Eight, and even before that, Sweet 16, Elite Eight. Last year they made it. I know it didn't go well, but and then this year's team, I think, is severely underrated.
Yeah.
Just now getting in the top 25 and all that stuff. This is Brad Brownell and that staff are doing a great job with this team.
Yeah. You look at talk about transfer portal for just a minute. Brownell built pretty much this entire starting lineup and rotation out of the transfer portal. He's using Buckner. He got Godfrey back. So there have been guys with Clemson ties. I'm blanking on another guy. Of course, you had Zach Foster, who was a high school recruit for a while. Oh, Dylan Hunter is the
Dylan
other
Hunter.
mainstay and the only one who really had played significantly. So, other than Godfrey 2 years ago, obviously, a known quantity there, but had to use the portal to get him back. This team has a chance, if it gets to March Madness still looking like this, to be talked about the way that Florida State football team with Jordan Travis was talked about for the 2 years that he was really good before he got hurt, about being a real textbook example of how to build through the portal. And then the other thing I really want to talk about, you and I have talked about this, but it hasn't been posted, so it's new to everybody else, is this cast of a dozen, where you've got a different guy stepping up every night, different leading scorers every night, it would appear, or close to it. That can be a real strength. However, I've also seen it with other teams. Being an Orlando Magic fan, unfortunately, they haven't had a real go-to guy for those clutch moments and late in a game for quite a long time. Maybe Banchero is becoming that guy for them. Will it be trouble if they don't have someone emerge and be that closer for them in a close game?
I mean, it could. At this point, this is who you are. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't really go get one of those guys. It's not the NBA where you can go make a trade and go get one of those guys for
He
the tournament.
he's not Pete
So
Golding. He can't just go get one mid-season.
he might, maybe he can. Maybe Brad needs to give Pete a call and say, "Hey, how'd you make that work?" I mean, Bill Carter Willing said this the other day that it makes them hard to scout, and it is. So how do you know? Because who do you know? How do you know who's going to be that guy that day? And Nick Davidson the other day scored 21 points in one half. So they're dangerous, and this is just who you are. You have to play into it again at that point. So it's going to be fun to see. 6-0 in the ACC. and rolling. They've won 9 straight. They've won 14 straight at home. Let's see more crowds in Little John like we saw Saturday, where the students are there's standing room only for the students. That's the next step for this
Yeah.
program, is to
Awesome.
see that fan engagement for this program.
You and I lived that with the Del Davis, Eldon Campbell, rest
Yep.
in peace, Eldon era. With that place was, I don't think I have ever been in a stadium that was excited the way that Clemson was when they beat Duke that year, and it helped them go on to clinch the regular season championship. Too bad it ended at the hands of a miracle by an opponent, but what a season that was, and that building was just electric then. I remember I would go to every game, then halftime I'd go over to my mom's uncle's seats, go visit with him and my cousin, and just such a good time. So it would be wonderful to see that return to Little John Coliseum. Well, we will keep up, obviously, with men's basketball, football transfer portal. Look, Clemson can still get guys, by the way. I didn't mention that earlier. I think we mentioned it in a previous episode. They still can get players. It was just a deadline for players to enter the portal, and then, grad transfers can go anytime. So anyone who isn't signed, Clemson's can still pick them up for football. We'll follow any further roster building. At some point, we're going to get some little individual profiles in about each of the signees, and we'll post them as we do them. And if they end up leaving, well, we'll just leave them there. What the heck? So we'll see how it goes. So thank you for being with us, and thank you for getting us to 1,000 subscribers recently. That was awesome. We're looking forward to keeping this a free channel, and that helps us do that. So subscribe, keep the comments coming. We love when people expand the conversation, talk about things we didn't talk about. If we need a correction, jump in there and correct us and let us know. So until our next episode, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.